to COVID Club. We show some COVID love. Give you a socially distant COVID hug. I just made that up. I literally just made it up, so it's gone.
And I'm going to take this off because I can't breathe, and also because I'm inside.
I'm in a band.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are allowed to be socially close. Because
we're...
What? What are you going to say then?
I didn't know what you were going to say.
Because we're men. What were you
married, but I didn't know what you were going to say.
What? Why would people be shocked by that? I'm so confused. Because we're... What is that dirty word? You don't want people to know that we're married?
I thought you were going to say it.
Disgusting.
Disgusting.
Welcome to COVID Club. This is our little gift to the world where we share with you some of our favourite people, some of our favourite online social things, some of our favourite podcasts, artists, interviewees, creators. It's people that we absolutely adore.
Yep.
And therefore we know that you guys will adore.
Especially during what's going on right now. We're all stuck inside.
Mm-hmm.
And these people that we're talking to today are especially a couple of people that have helped me really survive the week.
Yeah.
Every week, especially on my very small walk to Marks and Spencer's, because your girl needs soup.
Why don't you take the lead, Sid, and tell them who they are and what they do.
This is Evidence Locker. This is Sonia and Noel. They're super cool. They are a true crime podcast. I'm a huge fan. They have actually...
You made me a huge fan.
Yeah, I made you a huge fan. They've connected myself and my best friend, who lives very far away from me, even before the lockdown, to just, come together a bit more.
They're in fact in the waiting room. Should I mention?
Yes.
Mm-mm. Here we go. Oh, I'm excited.
I'm excited. I'm more excited than you.
Hey!
Hey, you guys.
How are we doing? Are we getting sound?
I hope it's sounding awesome.
Hello.
Hey. Hi.
Can you hear us? I can't hear you.
You can't hear us at all?
Okay, give us a second.
Audio settings.
Any of this working if we're talking to
There,
you?
We've only just heard the audio.
Is that working now?
That is working.
Hey!
Hi.
How
are you?
I'm sorry, we have this little one that's just very excited to see Uncle Noel.
I've just arrived, and
so she will calm down in a second, but if we leave her outside the door, she'll cry.
Video bomb.
Okay. I don't want her to leave. I love her for
I might cry if she goes away.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, this is what we battle, people.
That's so good. Well, everybody watching,
Yeah.
this is Evidence Locker. These are the wonderful heroes that we were talking about before.
Yeah.
It's weird. It feels like I've met you before. Isn't that strange?
in some other universe.
It's a general zeitgeist because I think we feel the same way. So
Full cards on the table. So we've been doing a couple of these COVID clubs. We filmed one with Evidence Locker before, and I wasn't particularly happy with it. It didn't come out nice enough. And sometimes when you're lucky enough to meet peers and people that you really enjoy the work of, you connect with them. And that's what I felt happened with these guys.
Yeah.
And so very graciously, they've taken another short period of time out of their days to allow me to do this a little bit better, because as we were saying before, we love them and we know you guys are going to love them as well.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for giving us your time again.
happy to be back.
Oh God, it's honestly, it's still an honor. I'm still freaking out a little bit, and we'll keep it short. We know you guys have to go and do your actual amazing work, so we'll try not to keep you too long.
Yeah.
It's a very exciting day. We're recording our 100th episode today.
Yeah.
Hey!
Shut up.
We got a sacrificial lamb ready for it and everything.
It's very exciting. And just this week, they opened up cafes and restaurants, so we'll see if we can make it for a celebratory lunch.
Oh My God. Well, if you can't, we'll send you some virtual cupcakes or something. I don't know.
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Something from London that we can.
Yeah. Well, you're giving us your beautiful smiles.
There we go. We can accept those as well.
Oh my goodness.
100 episodes, guys. That's incredible.
Congratulations.
Thank
And
you.
also, they're still amazing. I've listened from episode 1, so well done, you guys.
I feel that you've probably committed more time than us.
No,
Some of us.
Some of us.
honestly, you guys.
All that to say, it does not feel like 100. Like hindsight is,
Yeah.
2020. It's amazing to think that it's actually 100.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
it's
very,
incredible.
very nice to feel.
How long have you guys been doing it for now?
About 2 years. In July, it would be 2 years.
July.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, let me tell you, the amount of walks that have flown past because of you guys and your dialogue and the words that you write and the way that you write it have flown by because it's so good. And also your, compassion and just everything that you do. Well
I would
done. Thank
imagine
you.
Those walks don't have you looking over your shoulder a little bit more.
Believe it or not, they don't.
It's the more zen on the walks.
I do have one of those little key rings that's like a cat with like the ears. So
Oh,
that
yeah.
you-
Yeah.
So it's
Just
like if
in case.
ever needed.
yeah, but I've not needed that ever. So you guys have made me feel very confident.
Well, then that means we're doing our job well.
So for people who are meeting you guys the first time, why don't you talk us through what is a day in the creation of podcasts? Like what is the work that goes into creating an episode of Evidence Locker?
Sonia?
Okay, so pretty much I do the producing. So I write it, I research the episodes, and I also do the audio editing and social media. Noel is the silky smooth voice
Hey.
that you hear.
Absolutely.
that lulls many a person to sleep. So we're and he's also an infinite cheerleader. So he's always there. Needs some help and suggestions. Every week I aim to write one episode, I audio edit one episode, and then promote one that's issued, and that pretty much sums up a week. So I have 3 cases in my head at any given time.
No word.
It's actually magic how she keeps the right cases with the right cases.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I was literally just thinking that.
Yeah, I wouldn't know where to begin.
God knows details would get mixed up with details if it were
Yeah,
me.
completely.
Yeah, well, I suppose if you really just see the people as the victims as people, then you connect with it, and then you do remember. Oh, that was. I was having a smile. Cindy's story, and whenever it was Cindy
James?
James,
Okay.
and Noel kept on saying Sydney. So I would be interested to know if you'll be calling Sydney Cindy now because it was so drilled into you that day. Cindy.
I think I have a little bit more caffeine in me this day. I
Okay.
think I'm
Oh, that's great.
That's great. Don't worry, I get it all the time. You can call me Cindy. Whenever.
No, he defaults to Sydney.
proximity effect, we'll call it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was going to say
that's
that's
where
very
he lives.
So tell us the story about you guys. I mean, like, you've come from completely different areas of the globe and yet come together. How did you guys meet? How did the podcast come about?
Well, I'm turning into my invisibility cloak. There we go.
I know.
I'm back.
How we only had one of those, hey?
We've only got about half your face as well. I'm missing the other half of your face.
Okay.
Oh, look at that.
Yay!
Social distancing, haha. I don't have COVID here.
We actually should be wearing masks like Hannibal
We
Lecter,
should.
but like the Hannibal Lecter kind.
Sid
No,
has-
I do have one.
this is Sid's
Yeah.
mask. Can you see the bees on it? Just
Oh,
the bees are there.
wow.
You know.
Are those
safety.
bees or murder hornets? No, I'm just
That's amazing.
No, to answer the question, Sonia and I met in Sydney, Bondi. We actually worked for a very well-known fruit shop who shall remain nameless, but is well known.
They don't sell fruit, but technology.
And yeah, one day we were just sort of rostered at the same spot, and just, you know, as you do, just chat, and then we come to know that we have sort of things that we have in common interests. We talked about making films, Sonia being from a writing background, writing for a very big soap opera in South Africa. My background being more music, but my thing was I was always trying to change that and just sort of turn that into filmmaking of some sort. So, you know, it's just you start talking and you're like, oh, well, you know, let's just continue to talk about it. And then lo and behold, you know, you keep talking about it, then you actually start to get things tangible. And then we went and made a film together, won an award. And yeah, I mean, we just kept going. Like I have her back, she has mine. So whatever we're looking at, you know, trying to exercise or do, you know, from a consultancy level to from an, you know, on the ground boots level, we're just there for each other. So and,
Yeah, I have helped Noel to dress up like a demon at 3 a.m. in the morning.
oh God. the only,
And that was making a film.
strangely, the only sane ones are sitting there trying to dress up as a demon. Everybody else is like,
By that time, all the wheels were coming off. And then we pulled it through.
no, and that's the thing. And I think, you know, not to throw anything out there in a number sense, but I think we just have a little bit more experience than others we might be in the room with. And I'm only saying that in a numerical sense, but I will not name those numbers.
With that specific film.
with that
Yeah,
specific
and also
film,
just
yes.
the desire. We have the same work ethic. So I suppose we do work well together. And we know that creativity actually, it's not just about the muse in the moment. It actually takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think both of us do, and communication and all of those things that come with it. And when you do create something, you tend to sort of live in your head and you're in the clouds often. I don't know if you experience the same sometimes, and you don't necessarily want to be good at that end of it. Let's call it the hustle side of things. But
Yeah.
you realize that comes with the game.
Yeah.
And you
Yes.
need to do it. And I think that was a good experience. So we met at work. So we became friends at work. So we work together.
It
That's
would
what we do.
It would be fair to note, though, that with this company's vetting process, that you were more likely to come across
a cult.
somebody, but you were more likely to come across somebody who was at least clever or had a creative bone or just had something that, you know, so long as they weren't indoctrinated and empty brained, that they, you know, was something you could respect. So it was like, that's the one good thing I will say. If you took people out of that particular place, you could probably make an awesome company elsewhere with those same people. And we sort of
I
did.
think you're going to have to edit that.
Well, you know, yeah, you probably would. Sorry. But no, I wanted to just say that you can respect the person you would talk to. So it wasn't like you're a little bit more standoffish. Oh yeah, sure, pal. You know, not one of those sort of scenarios.
Yeah, the reality was, you can cut it short. We met at the front door. We were the hello people for that day.
And we didn't say hello
And we
too
didn't
much.
say hello to anyone because we were just planning films. And they never put us there together again.
That'd be
No matter of
amazing.
fact, they transferred me to another part of the school.
Wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't it be amazing when we put this on YouTube and allow adverts? It would cut to an advert of that company, like right.
Oh my
Yes.
God. And then we'd be like, somebody's listening. Hey.
They're also listening.
They're
Okay.
watching
Doing
you.
the interview and then
Hey, come
hey.
on.
This is so
baby.
cute. This
Not
is
my
so
baby. I shouldn't say baby, but you know what I mean.
now I'm disappearing. Okay,
I think
I'll
it's-
check her out.
I think it's
So we might
important.
have just some sound bombing coming in through the door. No.
There we go.
Love it.
I think it's important when you're dealing with heavy subject matter to have something that lightens the tone. So having a dog around is
Oh gosh, there's nothing
It's a
more in the
stress
world.
release, yeah. Our co-producer.
Podru-
I want
Podrucer.
a dog so bad. You have no idea.
Do you find yourself able to chart the line between the horror movies that you're making and the podcast that you do now? Do you think there's a line between them?
I personally think there's a through line. I mean, just even in just the very sort of embryonic sense of you might get inspired by an idea that's coming from a true life
Mhm.
scenario that might inspire a fictional scenario in your head. So I think that's, I mean, my personal through line, definitely. But I don't think it's the other way around. Obviously, fiction can inform true life for certain people, but I think creatively, no, you take more inspiration to true life because, right,
Yeah.
Stranger Things, like it's just you
You
can't make that kind of stuff.
No, you
up,
can't write
know?
some of these. You can't make it up. Some of these things that we are learning.
Yeah.
It happened to people. And yeah, I mean, Knowles sent me scripts and he said, well, this was inspired by this or that case.
Exactly.
Can you have a look at this short film script? And it is horror. It ends with a paranormal twist.
Well, I'll tell you what, and you guys heard it here first, that the movie we were talking about earlier where she was dressing me up as a demon at 3 a.m, if that ever gets treated as a feature, the angle of the feature is definitely taken from an evidence locker case.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh,
Literally,
That-
like reading the case in my brain, I was like, oh my God, now I know how the angle to attempt the feature, if that
There
ever
we go.
came to play, that's exactly what it's going to be. So, you know, it
Well-
actually does. It lends itself back and forth.
I just got so excited. So
Yeah, that's so interesting because when me and Sid were talking before, obviously we had a conversation about outside of this meeting, you know,
Yeah.
where you guys had been and where you came to create the podcast. But I was saying, I wonder if the podcast will inform the other pieces of work moving forward, and clearly it is. You know, clearly it's inspired work, which is amazing and great for you guys. Absolutely brilliant.
Look, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, it is exciting. I think a film is so involved, and that's there's so many elements to it, and it's the visual and the audio and the costumes and everything that goes with it. That podcasting was almost a step back for us, like just relaxing into it a little bit, because you don't have to worry about the art design and that sort of thing. It's more. It becomes a little bit more
It's script and
script. So
performance.
yeah, so for me
Yeah.
too, for a long time, I always say the best moments in a movie is when there's no dialogue. If you set it up correctly, so there's no script. So suddenly I was faced with, now you can't hide behind a picture. You need to paint the picture with your words.
And I think part of that
So I
too
did
is,
turn it upside down a little bit again.
and I think part of that is also to keep content coming, because we actually were living quite close to each other at that time, and then Sonia had moved, so we're about maybe an hour and a half, an hour and 45 away from each other now, and by doing that, I think it created your own microcosm that you've always wanted to sort of do podcast stuff anyway, because you were listening to them.
Yeah, I was listening.
And it just worked out that this was the way for it to happen. It was an organic thing. It wasn't like you broke your back to try to make it happen. It works now.
Yeah.
So
Thanks to you.
and thanks to you.
This accent isn't a podcasting accent.
I have to move one of you to another department. Is this what's going to happen here?
Probably because we take a lot of attention away from other things. No.
No, I completely understand what you mean about the difference between podcasting and filmmaking. But I suppose podcasting is a real, like, pairs down to the essence of self-restraint when it comes to writing. I mean, it must be useful writing a script when this is all you have to focus on. You know what I mean? Like, there's no hiding behind shots. There's no hiding behind,
No.
visual tricks. It's this and only that.
It's like a different kind of tunnel vision, because you still got to attempt both things with a certain kind of tunnel vision. But yeah, I think you have, not all the time, honestly, but for Sonia, I know, like, sometimes she has to pretty much pull out a shovel to find information in certain cases. But when let's say you were to, just to use an example of like somebody who's known or something like Ted Bundy, well, it's all there. You can't make anything up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to,
Yeah.
you have all the information in front of you. It's just your job to put it in an order that makes sense and an order that sort of is dramatic. It creates that intrigue or answers the questions that you might have had that you never knew before listening to a podcast. So
yeah,
And it is interesting because the better known cases are actually a little bit daunting, because there are so many armchair sleuths that probably know more than I can gather in a week. And they've spent a lifetime in trying to solve, let's say, the Zodiac or whatever. It's their passion and thing.
Yeah.
So it is pretty daunting to do those big ones, I have to be honest. And that's why I find it's quite enjoyable doing the lesser known ones where you're actually telling the story to someone for the first time.
And as
Yeah.
for me, I look at that and be like, really? Because I would think it would be a little bit more difficult, but you know,
It's harder to find information about it, but I do enjoy that.
but at least at that point, you know, like if we're talking about respecting the victims and their families, you're actually giving respect to them by telling the story, you know,
Yeah.
like more people now know about it. And
About
there's
their story, yeah.
There's a collective energy, and there's almost like this empathy, you
Yeah.
know, that they might not receive.
And it is.
in
I
any
mean,
other
I
way.
suppose doing it sort of, as we said in our previous conversation too, with the Commonwealth English and the American accent,
Yo, yo, yo.
sometimes it's a bit of a universal style going, I suppose. But
Yeah.
in the end, whether a crime occurs in China, in America, in Argentina, it's people at the end of it, and things go wrong between people. And people
Yeah.
can identify with it, and it's finding that human element in each case and saying, well, what if this were me? What if this were to happen to me?
And God knows
Well,
sometimes those
that-
moments are quite dark,
Mm.
you know?
I mean that's kind of for me what I love so much about listening to you guys, because the empathy, and you know, even in the beginning, especially in the harder cases when you say, you know, trigger warning, what have you, but you're so just kind towards the victims. It's not like, here's a really spooky case about some dead people. You know what I mean? It's like,
Dun, dun, dun.
but, and
You can use that, by the way.
Yeah. That'll be a little voice clip. That'll be our promo for our 100th.
But we won't tell you when.
Mm.
You're just like, oh my God, they did.
There he is,
Van
Paul.
Dyke. So you have an English accent your entire life, and then when you try to do an English accent, is a spooky. What the fuck was that?
I'm sorry.
Are you Eliza too, little?
Our
I meant
cases
that
have been
obviously with no
spooky.
disrespect. I just mean that you guys are always so kind, and you make like a safe space despite what you're talking about, which is so respectful. And as somebody that is in my family had, you know, death and quite frankly murder and stuff like that happen, you know, not that I'm trying to make a big deal out of it, but when you listen to people like you guys who make it okay to listen to, it makes a real big difference. It, you know, because there are a few things I've listened to in true crime podcasts or whatever which make you feel very uncomfortable, but you guys don't.
It's a fine line. It is a fine line in
Yeah.
telling the story as it happened, and then just finding that moment of empathy. And at the beginning, essentially, I said to Noel, I would like to be able to tell this person's brother, sister, mother, to show them the script with a clear conscience.
Yeah.
And say, look, this is all the information that I could find, and I verified it with different sources. Is this correct?
And it's open source too.
It's all open source. I mean, I never contact the families. I'm not a journalist. I'm not out to solve any cases. Just retelling stories, really.
Yeah, but that, you know, that in itself is
That's a great outlook.
that's helping people as well. You know, the further you reach, you never know that the unsolved ones could be solved because of what you guys are doing.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, Lars Mittank. I would love that one to be solved. The
Mhm.
guy that ran away at the
I mean,
airport in
not
Bulgaria.
one that we profiled. Eliza Lamb. That's what
Yeah,
I want
that's
to know.
it.
I want to know what happened there.
I mean, there are so many on there.
Yeah.
that you rack your brain over, but again, you guys are doing God's work, so thank you.
When you both started this, was this a conversation you had to have? I assume you wanted to start the podcast, and it was brought and conversations had. Did you sit
Can I
down and
answer
have?
this one?
Did you have a conversation?
It's actually quite simple. It was like one conversation. And the conversation was, hey, Noel, so I'm doing a podcast, and I would really like the narrator to just be a little bit more even keel with an American accent. And you're the only one I know. Would you be willing to do it? Yeah, sure. And that was it. And then it was just planning after that. But it was just,
Brilliant.
yeah, it's just simple.
Sometimes it just helps having a friendship at the base of it, I suppose.
Well, I was going to say, if it was,
Yeah.
you know, somebody else, I might have been like, I don't know. But because Sonia was asking, I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, we had that pact. We said we'd help each other
Yeah.
out with our creative projects no matter what. So there's
Yeah.
no matter what, it's just starting to take its toll on Noel.
That wasn't. It wasn't like a like you had to think about it. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm down. like it was more for me. I was more concerned about. Are you sure you want me to do it? Like that was where I was at, and I think we touched on it last time. That first episode. Oh boy,
It took long
that
to
was
record.
and especially it was the Swedish episode. It was the first time. Okay, I'm
Nice.
getting into pronunciations here that I normally wouldn't be pronouncing like just any time else in my life. So that was literally diving into the deep end and just okay, this is how it's going to go. And then as episodes go on, it sort of gets a little bit easier. You know what you're in for. It's like okay, and then Sonia's there. Okay. She might have friends who actually speak the language natively, and she'll have a recording of how to pronounce certain words, which I will still then butcher, but at least it has a little bit more of, there's a little bit more of a try, an attempt, a proper attempt anyway.
Yeah,
So-
we get friends to record little sound clips of. I'll send a lot of words. I had a Polish speaking friend in the Polish episode. That was a tricky one, and just sort of saying the words and then.
For me, I always
We
find the
have a sound clip.
Scandinavian. The Scandinavian
Yeah.
ones are Scandinavian Russian. Those are the
Yeah.
ones for me.
Yeah, the Russians. But
Although, even though I'm from California and I was in Spanish courses and Spanish isn't too hard, the episode that we did of La Mata Viejitas, yeah, that episode, like, and I'm not saying that, and you might have to edit this out. I'm like, why is there always 3 or 4 names and they all have like at least 5 syllables to them?
That's great.
Yeah, that one
So
was,
the
that
problem
one was a
is
handful.
there were a lot of victims, and again,
Which all have
just-
3 names at least.
Just the respect out of it, you can't just say, well, this guy, that guy. Just to
Yeah.
take that moment to sit. For a moment, I thought, should we just use their last name or just their first name? And I thought,
if you're gonna
no,
do it, you
kind
gotta
of
do
have
it.
to do it. It's just
Yeah.
straight
Yeah.
to the
It's,
style, but it was a tongue twister.
it was a
that one.
shock for me because I'm like, I should know. Well, because I should know Spanish. I should know how to at least pronounce Spanish. Because I have a thing, right? I've always
He's
say.
traumatized.
No, I always say to like this is my take on like the words or whatever. Like I like tell Sonia like being American, like I would say I use the example of the word churro. Like I don't want to be like, okay, so they went to the market and they ordered a churro. I don't want to be they went to the market and they ordered a churro. Like I don't want to be
It doesn't
that
flow.
guy.
Yeah.
So it's trying to approach it from those. But with this episode, it's like, yeah, you got to go all out with it.
Yeah.
Viejitas.
I mean, you'll never get anything right, but we do try on everyone. I mean, people are very quick to point out if we get it wrong. We appreciate
Yeah.
the feedback.
That's true.
But I bet they appreciate the effort, like
Yeah.
it's
I hope it
At
comes
least
across.
try.
I hope it comes across that way anyway.
It- well, I mean, it certainly
you can
does,
see
yeah.
it, you can see it right now. That's the really interesting thing because I know we're talking about names and pronunciation and stuff, but what the reason that it is funny and the reason that like it makes me laugh to be with you guys is one, there's so much heart in what you do,
Yeah.
and 2, you're laughing because not at the names, you're laughing because you're working so hard to make sure that these people got the respect that they deserve. Do you know what I mean? It's a very different
Yeah.
thing.
It's funny that it actually sometimes takes a bit of energy to get it right. Just
Oh, completely. I mean,
So-
I once recorded an album entirely in French, Scandinavian, and
What?
Spanish and French when I was 11.
a Scandinavian album.
It was, yeah, it was
You think you
pretty
know
awesome.
someone. You think you know someone.
it was I'm glad I don't have a copy of it. Let me just say that.
Yeah, I can't even imagine French. That it's just hard for me.
Yeah, we
Like,
struggle with the French names and
I had
town
no
names.
idea what I'm
Lots of
saying.
town names.
unless it's Chevaline, that was easy
So Chevaline. So we'll always just cover Chevaline.
because I can say it properly.
Paris.
Or Paris. Ah, oui.
We were
Yeah.
listening. We were listening.
And maybe on a good day, Provence.
Provence, maybe.
Provence.
We were listening to an episode today. I think it's about the 3rd time we've listened to it. Is it your favorite episode? Do you think?
It's certainly one that I'm fascinated by.
It's the well, you can tell better than I can.
Kim Wall.
Oh,
Oh.
yes.
Yeah,
Denmark.
with
Denmark.
Yes, that
Um,
one took me to a dark place.
yeah.
It's
that
just so
whole-
sad.
It's weird because I mean, not weird, but like for me, when I think of that case, because this guy had all this money in the world, and that lends itself to my own personal like thoughts of the elite, and then the state of the world affairs as they are in America right now. Like, so
Yeah,
that actually
that's
just by
it,
hearing
right.
Kim Wall, all that stuff just connects, and the synapses shoot, and like I don't know, like he thought he could get away with murder. He did. I mean, he had a submarine and he killed her in it. Like,
He was just so callous. Everyone saw them go off together. They were waving at people. He came out by himself. Oh no, I dropped her off. How is that okay?
because I have
It's-
money, I dropped her
felt- yeah.
off. Like, that's what I think
Well,
people
that's
think.
it. That's
yeah,
it. I
and
mean,
it is heart wrenching. It is. She did nothing wrong. She was at the point of starting her life with Ola in China. It was
Literally just going to do a job.
just to do a job.
yeah.
It was their going away party with all their friends. He waited for her. My heart just broke for him because he went ahead to go to China.
Yes.
I get chills just thinking of the loss he had. I mean, you're at the brink of starting your life with someone. And then this happened.
What was the latest? It happened what, a year and a half ago. Wasn't there something came out about him? Like, he wasn't released from jail.
No, he married. He
Is that what it
married
was?
someone.
I knew it was something.
And he's
odd.
always pushing to get out.
I knew it was something odd. Yeah.
Yeah, he's always pushing to get out. I think they made a film about it recently,
Okay.
but Netflix Denmark won't show it or something. It's been banned in
Is it just
Denmark.
because it gives him
I
a
don't know.
sort of notoriety?
I
Or
would be interested to see it and see why. But yeah, apparently that is, I stand corrected, but that's the last I heard.
Okay. Because I remember you telling me that, and I remember reacting. Oh, really? But I mean, that's a whole other like
Yeah.
phenomena about people being attracted to serial killers who are behind bars. They
Yeah.
want to get married.
Oh,
behind
yeah.
bars and stuff. But I mean, if you're into Richard Ramirez and I'm sorry, you're attracted to him because they said his breasts, well, his teeth were all screwed up and all. It's like, I don't know. It just.
There are some. I don't know. I can't even. I'm a very happily married woman, so I
Well, you know what? Kudos
I'm
and congrats.
in any way. Ted Bundy, no, thank you.
No, thank
No,
you.
no.
Yeah,
Only
but
the intrigue of like, why did you do it? That's it. That's as far as it goes.
Yeah.
that's as far as the interest goes. Like,
Yeah.
Do you find it with cases like that? Do you find it hard not to take the work home? I mean, I know you sort of write it from home, obviously, but is it hard to put that away, to put it in a box?
It is hard. A couple of times I've had nightmares and that sort of thing, and then you sort of wake up. I am a mum, so I do think I've turned a little bit more protective. My kids always have a way that I can track them and that sort of thing. Because I think what I have learned is all it takes is that one time you let your guard down. It's people who would do everything right for most of their lives, but it's that one bad decision.
Yeah.
Or not even bad decision, just decision.
Because it could be chance. I
Yeah,
mean,
it
if it's
could be
premeditated,
chance.
it's a different story, but chance is a big factor.
But
You
it is.
never know. I mean, even just by getting
Yeah.
hit by a car or something.
Well, I mean,
just
I am
what's
South African, and if you know any South Africans, we're all a bit broken. So we usually start with the worst case scenario, and then we work our way back. So it's not, Mom, can I go to a party today? Okay, so you're 8 years old. Will there be drugs and alcohol? Well, you sort of.
We got bulk mace from Costco, so here, take that.
Yeah. So you are doing martial arts. When do you use it?
Oh,
Anytime you're under threat, okay? You're allowed to use it.
man. Culturally, that it's an interesting thing to think about. You know,
It is.
and,
It is
like,
interesting, but I mean,
You have to be that
it
way.
is quite South African to start at the worst case scenario and then work your way back. Then whatever
Yeah.
else can happen in between is all right. So I think that helped me desensitize a bit from the cases, because in South Africa, a lot of the crime that you hear about is usually related to someone you actually know or some of your friends or family. So
Yeah.
if it isn't someone you personally know, I suppose there is a built-in mechanism to distance yourself from it. But yeah, the nightmares do come.
So I think for me, the ones that stay with me, like I can watch gore movies left and right? But like if it's real, don't show me surgery or anything like that. But but if I'm reading, say, Spezia,
You
and
had to
he's done-
choose that
well,
one.
well, because of what he did, and he's cutting people up and cooking them and all that kind of stuff, I still can envision that like a film I'm watching, and it doesn't really bother me in that sense. What gets to me is if a particular motive is dark. That's what shakes me. Like, why did they do that? Because there was just something there that's unsettling, and it's that bit that might be harder for me to wash off, depending on what we're profiling on the day. So certain things could be hectic, and it's like, okay, wow, that's screwed up, but it's not there. Like, oh my God, it's gonna give me nightmares. But other ones, like I mean, one that is unsettling to me is Matamoros.
Yeah.
Costanzo, it's intriguing, the whole concept of doing Palo Mayombe, just to be able to elude authorities because you're a drug cartel. But part of the rituals are grinding hearts and mortar and pestles and all that kind of thing. It's intriguing, but it's unsettling to me. It's like, it's just, it's like, oh, we are doing this. And nobody is safe because we need to keep eluding the cops. I mean, how long could it have gone if they had not been caught? Stuff like that,
Yes. That goes in a very dark place. But also I find, to me, the most unsettling ones are the ones that you can identify with, like a husband or a wife, normal situation that most of us can sort of see ourselves in, and then this person changed or turned, and it's that whole nature nurture situation. You wonder, how long have they been like this? They've just been able to cage it in. But I do find it very unsettling. It's just this normal mother of two or whatever, and there you go, serial killer.
There's almost like levels with the killer, right? Like you might have your serial killers, but then you might have the husband who's trying to get one over on his wife for insurance money. Or you might have,
I was gonna say
they all share the same energy, but it's just like there's like almost different tiers of where they go. So I see what you're saying when it comes to like,
it's that beneath the surface. If you don't know if it's you trust someone and they're that close to you, and
they all share that one thing in the middle, that nucleus of like, I can do this, I can kill somebody,
and I can get away with it. Ultimately, I think there's a big narcissist element in psychopath too. Firstly, I don't care. Secondly, I'll get away with it because I'm smarter and better than everyone else.
And they think
maybe that, I just want to add to that, maybe, in the 70s and things like that, that was more akin to happening because obviously forensic science was at and things like that. But obviously, as you go on, you kind of wonder, why would you even do anything now? You're going to get caught.
I mean, I think a lot of these people that think they are that smart are freaking idiots. Like, to be frank, like that, doing the insurance fraud and whatnot and killing their other half. Like, dude, come on.
Like if you're robbing a bank nowadays, probably good on you then, because how did you do it? Like,
that'll take some skill.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, we got a couple of questions that were sent in from your amazing audience beforehand that I'd like to ask, if that's all right, because you got a good audience.
I'm just
No, these are good. Trust me, these are really good. What are the moments, in your opinion, when people, the public or podcasters or movies, have crossed the line with true crime?
Crossed the line. It's sort of ironic to think about crossing the line with true crime, because crime itself is sort of crossing a line.
I suppose when it comes to victim shaming, if there's a lot of guilt put towards the victim, they shouldn't be in that situation, and then maybe ridiculing their decision to be in a particular situation. Because as I said before, it's sometimes boils down to one decision. I'm going out tonight. I'm taking this way, not that way.
But then if that's portrayed as like, I'm partying it up and drinking and all that kind of stuff, and then I end up dead. Like,
yes. And not doing proper research. So just researching off bad research, then something that's a speculation becomes a fact, especially in the older historic cases. I have found that, and I find that's an injustice to the victims, because it's sometimes a journalist that's speculated and then
Right.
it becomes retold as fact.
Well, and then,
So I cannot
mean,
think of any example. I can think of one, but it's to do with our 100th episode, and I don't want to spoiler alert too much.
ah,
No,
You're
no,
allowed.
you're fine. That's it's such an
Yeah, I
interesting
think-
thing for shaming. I agree with that.
Yeah, completely agree. And also romanticizing the killers, you know.
well,
Yes, that's right.
That's going to
That's
come
right.
across no matter what, I think, because it all depends on how the viewer or the listener or whoever takes it. Because sometimes that person becomes almost an anti-hero, depending on, you know, their motive. Like for me personally, I am in love with Walter White. He's not somebody to really be in love with, but I love Breaking Bad. He's an anti-hero, and I think his character arc is brilliant. So ergo, I romanticize him, even though he's not, by action, he is not somebody one should be romanticizing. But I think
He's flawed,
but most of us know the difference between fact and fiction. And I think when you look at things like, say, Mindhunter, or even Hannibal, the series, or you know, like just films are based on true stories. Because I was told, like literally yesterday, that the show Hannibal, a lot of the things that they profile, because I'm blown away by how they shown some of these things, were based on real FBI files.
Oh,
I was
wow.
like, really? That shows how twisted
Yeah.
people can get. But you know, by using those, like if I was a writer or a showrunner on, say, Hannibal, and I read, ooh, this really happened, I'm gonna take that and use it here. Is that glorifying it? You know, that's a weird line to, like, what's too far by doing that? I don't think it's a bad thing to do it, but is it wrong to do it?
Yeah, well, I mean, our most popular episodes are probably the more gory ones.
It's
Yeah.
drama, right? It's horror.
Sensation. I mean,
Yeah.
as much as we like to rein in sensationalism, it is the ones that are most shocking that get the most attention.
Well, the
like
thing
the
is-
skin suit case of
Oh, yeah.
Krakow
Moskvin?
and
Oh,
Moskvin.
Moskvin with the dolls.
Yeah, with the dolls.
Like just by saying that, like, you can be very true, just write a sentence very true to the fact, and just because of the circumstances, it's spectacle automatically.
yeah.
Completely true. I've never even thought of it like that. That's like a 3-minute psychology lesson right there. Just like
And the rabbit trail goes deep.
Goes deep. I'm gonna need to reel him in. We need a day. We have a days of recording in front of us, so Noel needs to.
By the end
Don't
of the-
get him started, people.
By the end of the day, she will sew my lips shut after the recording's done.
Yeah, we have this mask.
All right. Well, yeah, you're right. You've got a long day ahead, so we'll start.
we'll
wrapping
reel
this
it
up,
in.
I
Yeah,
promise
we'll
you.
reel it in. We've only got a couple.
No, I didn't mean for you. It was more my colleague here.
This is the wonderful thing.
Is this a good angle for Shane? No, I'm just kidding.
this is the wonderful thing about this conversation, though. Like, all of these points and all of this stuff, you're not signaling these points, but it shows that how much care and thought has
And
gone
compassion.
and compassion has gone into the work that you do and the choices you make. And it doesn't have to be signposted. It just lives there in the way that you tell the stories.
And like I said, it's in every introduction that you guys do as well. Like, just there's no. I never feel afraid, which I know is something silly to say because the cases aren't about me. But you know, if you're maybe in not a good place emotionally, it's a Monday morning, you're having a crap time, it's coronavirus outside, everything has gone to hell, but walking down the street listening to you guys is so, and I don't mean this in any offense to any of the victims that you talk about, but it is very calming because of the way that you produce what you do. So
Thank you.
Thank
Cindy.
you.
yeah,
I think a part of it is also just sticking to format, you know, because you have your listeners and you say, okay, we got this. It's okay. You're coming on a journey with us. This is the format. We're not going to throw overproduced pieces of jingles and stuff to you.
There's enough of those.
And
right?
maybe for Christmas or that sort of thing, but then because I mean sometimes it's really tempting to get a bit, put a nice music track over or something, and I was just okay,
I mean,
You're not making a film now. Just stick to this.
Yeah.
thing.
but let's be honest, like with the Moskvin case, using the Russian music, I mean, it enhances it, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I
works.
had a sound clip in the Argentina one of Carlos Monzon that I actually got from the Boxing Hall of Fame.
So, but it's true.
Of
It just
commentary of his boxing.
it
So
accents.
that's just sort of, I think it was not even 30 seconds, but it just, I just really felt it needed to be there.
Exactly. And, you know, when it goes back to respect, like when you hear, and I'm not trying to talk trash on anybody else because
No, do
it's,
it.
it's again, going back to spectacle and things, but when it's like, he snuck into her house and stabbed her repeatedly. You know what I mean? Like, where's the respect?
You disappeared.
Well, anyways, the question is, where's the respect in that?
That was fantastic.
Literally turned into a ghost.
That
That
was
was
great.
incredible.
That
Wasn't
was
it?
great.
I was performing, so I missed it.
So Noel was really in the moment there.
No, but yeah, I mean, yeah, when you go to that level, that sort of feels disrespectful, you know? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, even your background music, when it's used, is so well done and so well used in terms of its like timing and placement and subtleness and just everything like that. It's like it's almost again, this sounds weird, maybe I'm a psychopath, but it feels like a bit of a blanket. Like you're listening to the audio and it's like, here you go.
so can we use that evidence locker?
Your blanket for the week.
There you go. It's a tagline and a half.
Your crime blanket.
There you
For those
go.
Americans, I
That's
thought it'd be
a
Whoopi.
crime blanket.
So-
There's another tag for you. There
So,
you go, guys.
so we've established that Sid has issues,
Mhm.
but aside from that, what's this
Interesting
Are you okay?
anytime. Yeah, how are you doing, Rob? How are you coping with it all?
Fair.
We've been in quarantine for a really long time.
yeah, I'm not very proud of this. I haven't worn trousers for like 3 months. And no, it ties in nice to our last audience question, which is somebody wrote in saying, why, in your opinion, is true crime entertainment to people? Why do you think that is?
Oh, okay, yeah. I've told this story a couple of times, so it might be boring. I sound like a broken record, but I looked into this because my husband asked me if I'm a sicko. Why am I so intrigued by it? He politely said, what is the obsession? He doesn't, because he is also intrigued, but not to the degree that I am.
Because I'm perverted, baby.
Yeah, because I'm broken, man. But no, it's actually that side of your brain that likes building puzzles and problem solving. So it's putting clues together, and that's the sort of thing that even before true crime was this whole, I don't know, it's a millennial thing. There was Agatha Christie. There was
There's other books, like even nonfiction
yeah,
books.
of course.
yes.
Things,
Also,
yeah.
but I mean, crime novels and crime things have always, it's been an interest to people, and it appeals to people who like solving problems. The same sort of person would typically, I believe, like to build a puzzle or do a Rubik's Cube or that sort of thing. So it is, if it gets a bit dark for me, I whip out a puzzle to just at least, so, and that actually does massage that side of the brain.
Without delving into the dark.
Without going dark,
things,
but
right.
it sort of does the same thing.
It does
Puts the Band-Aid on.
I love it.
I
You
would
just
say
broke my
too,
brain
on
bit.
that,
Like,
I think
I love
I love that because I love doing Lego or like
Yeah.
journaling or doing stuff like you just done like a ting
Yeah.
in my head. So
So it's not that you're
Wow.
a sicko. It is just that. And then the
Oh,
thing
yes.
about it is, it's an interesting story. Those stories are interesting because you also, there's that piece of you that gets a little bit uncomfortable, but you're sort of always hoping that good will conquer evil. So you're holding out for that. You're holding out for that. You're holding out. And I mean, what's sad about most of these cases is even if the person's caught and sentenced to life or whatever, justice doesn't solve it. You know, it's still just sad. but you sort of always just hold out and hope that good will conquer evil.
And that's any sort of, I mean, not to say true crime is entertainment, but like in any sort of entertainment, right?
Any
Like,
story, yeah.
and I was going to say, just on a podcast level, it sort of kind of feels like it goes back to before television, and people gather around the radio, War of the Worlds, like Little Orphan Annie,
Yes.
things like that. So they might have some darker stuff for the time back then, and there was just something, again, intriguing about it that pulled you in because you wanted to know that everything was going to be all right, whatever that story may have been.
Yeah.
I love that. That's beautiful. See, it's another thing. It's another thing. Like everything is just everything you talk about is just dealt with so much care and so much heart. You think about why these things are, and it just shows in all your work.
It's so
I think we're impressing ourselves too.
Can we talk to you more often? You guys are our blanket. Can we do this make this a weekly thing?
You complete us.
You complete us.
I was gonna say,
The next thing, Evidence Locker episode with opening title, Why the Wild Things.
There you go. Can you guys go Nordic, please? No. We know you can sing Scandinavian.
Yeah.
oh, guys.
Oh my
Look,
Lord.
thank you so much.
I wish we were with you right now.
Yeah, no,
Sorry.
thank you so much for giving us your time. I know how busy you guys are, and you've got so
Well,
much.
thank you. We'll just say pints in the future.
Yeah, we will definitely look you up, and you need to look us up when you fulfill your destiny and come to Sydney.
You think that
Or
wouldn't
Cindy.
be the first thing on our freaking list?
Oh my God, we're gonna annoy you guys so much.
Yeah.
When we get over there.
Literally on your doorstep.
Look, I bet you haven't seen the Sydney Opera House before. Let's go look at the Sydney Opera House.
My name's Sydney. Let's go look at Sydney.
Oh my God, it's so meta.
Oh, and I do have to say again, just before we go away, my best friend Lisa loves you guys, and she gives a huge shout out.
And
Because
shout
biggest-
out with a
biggest
silky
fan.
voice, Neil, to
Hey,
Lisa.
Lisa.
She will.
Was
die.
she okay with our answer last time to her question?
Yes, she. To be honest with you, you could say, Lisa,
She's like,
I'm
talk
gonna
minutes
go
to me.
crap on your shelf or
You
what.
can say, Lisa, I'm gonna go crap on you.
It wouldn't
I don't know if I
matter.
want to say that. That might be a soundbite that might come back to haunt.
This is
I
it.
would improvise.
I'm
Going
learning
to the
it.
Matrix right now.
This is a real.
I think we're getting
Congratulations
like,
on episode 100.
okay, I'm confused. I'm sorry, guys. It's gone somewhere. It's gone into the ether,
It's going pear-shaped.
and it's quite entertaining, though, from our end at least.
Brilliant. That's fine.
Good. Good.
No, I was just going to say thank you so much for your time. Congratulations on episode 100. That is insane.
Thank you.
It's just so wonderful that we get to introduce you to our fans. I mean,
We really appreciate that.
We
as
really
well.
and we
And,
really appreciate you
and-
listening to us, and we really
can't wait to hear
appreciate.
them.
Yeah.
Really can't
We
wait to
love
hear
your
them.
music. We love your music.
If I had a lighter,
Thanks.
Again, school drop off today. Loaded gun.
there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, that's amazing.
Now, do you want her to do any sort of dropping, anything you want?
I have to, yeah.
Yeah.
What case would you guys like us to do for you?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Things got real.
Things got real.
Hang on a second. I was saying goodbye. Buckle in, guys. You've got another 3 hours now.
Oh, okay. What?
Do let us know. You can have a think about
Yeah,
it. Do
I'm
let
gonna
us
have
know.
to think because there are many.
Oh my god.
Yes.
Sleep.
This is it now. You guys are in
This
for
is
it.
it.
We'll call it the evidence challenge because
Yeah.
I would think that you're going to come with something that's a little bit lesser known. So the lesser, the better.
She's going to
Probably
be
going to be an Oza.
Yeah.
Something like that.
You're in for it. You asked for it. You're in for it.
Bring it.
Ah.
Thank you so much, guys. Anybody watching, please like just send Evidence Locker all the love you can. Go
Yeah.
like their stuff, go rate their stuff, go find out their work. I'm yet to find something that isn't full of heart and full of care
Yeah.
and full of work. And it's exciting for me to know that you guys get to delve into this now. So like I can't thank you guys enough for being around. Thank
And
you
I'm so
much.
glad that I
Thank
got
you.
to show you these guys.
Yeah, that's been half the fun of this
Yeah.
that's been half the fun of this whole meeting, to be honest.
It's been great meeting you guys, and
Yeah,
it does
very.
feel like we've made some friends. So
Yeah.
we are looking forward to
To pints.
to pints
Hi.
as soon
We're
as we
looking
can
forward
travel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pints, schooners, anything. Bloody Marys, we got it.
Thank you so much, guys.
You
Have a good
guys are
day.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Send love to the dog.
Amazing.
Bye.
100
Definitely.
episode.
Yeah, bye.